28 nations, 189 registrations. It can't get any better than this. Welcome once again, all our colleagues logging in from Uganda, from Rwanda. I'm currently logging in from Kigali. Our colleagues in Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. Oh, you're most welcome. UK, US, Canada, the Netherlands, name it. We are very, very excited to have you all on board. For all of those that attended Block 1, what a wonderful conversation it was. And we are now going to build onto that. My name is Aileen Walusimbi Oloya, and I am the director of the Coach Africa Academy, one of the institutions in Africa that is supporting coaches to skill and to get credentialed. I see a lot of people coming in, but in the chat box, kindly remind us, if in case you're just joining us, tell us where you're logging in from. I'm sure the team at Coach Africa will welcome you to the second session, celebrating 20 years of excellence. I like our tagline. I actually fell in love with it. Coach Africa, where excellence is past, present, and future. You want to be a part of this. Today, I will quickly frame our Block 2 session. We're just going to explore what collaboration is when you think about having it as a strategic driver for growth, quality, and impact in African coaching. So using Coach Africa's 20-year journey of excellence as an example, this conversation is definitely going to bring together voices within the coaching profession, associate coaches and consulting, and networks, African assessment innovations, our credentialing partners, and of course, our African-rooted coaching standards that help us to, sustain the way we do the coaching business. The title for this session is Collaboration, the Growth Engine for African Coaching. It is anchored in a question: what becomes possible for coaches in Africa when we start building an ecosystem together? So our conversation today is intended to just show us what collaboration can do when it comes to strengthening professional standards, expanding opportunities, improving service delivery, increasing earning and bargaining power, supporting African intellectual property, and of course, advancing African excellence through coaching. So that the session will be largely conversational, participatory, and reflective in all ways. So I invite you and panelists to consider what African coaches or African firms and professional bodies can do to build a strong and lasting or sustainable ecosystem in the industry. So looking back where we are coming from, Coach Africa, over the past 20 years, one lesson, of course, has come very, very clear, that in Coach Africa, okay, I need to log in a couple of people. Maybe Danny, you can help me with that. So it's become very clear in this profession of coaching that you cannot build excellence in isolation. You may be, a consultant, you may be an organization, you may be a coach in your own right. We are simply saying, by yourself, you can only go far. Together, we can go heights, we can move mountains. And that is where our big question today is: what becomes possible for African coaching when we hold our hands together, when we start building an ecosystem together? And I know if you're on the call, feel free to share your quick reflections around that question. I'm sure Danny will be letting me in on what it is that you are sharing. And as the sharing comes in, I'd like to build what in Coach Africa we have always known to be a collaboration tree. I'd like you to think about a picture, and allow me to read this. Picture of Africa's future within coaching and leadership. Collaboration tree rooted in trust, in values and professional standards. Think about a tree without strong roots. What kind of tree would that be? Would it be able to grow? Would it be able to sustain itself? From the roots rises the trunk. And this, for us at Coach Africa, speaks to our platforms, our partnerships, and the credentials that give us structure, that unite us for real progress. From the trunk, we have the branches. And this is where we see visible collaboration. Think about the shared assignments that we get as coaches. Think about the referrals we keep giving to each other. Think about the mentorship, the partnership, and the willingness to just connect with each other rather than compete. And then come the fruits. That's where we see African innovation. Think about our IPs. Think about the transformational tools of excellence that we keep developing. This is all proof that collaboration actually does work. And of course, as we're going to hear from our panelists today, I'd like us to ask, what kind of tree are we building together? And what is possible? What can become of Africa if we chose to collaborate more rather than to compete? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to listen in to which part of the tree the speaker is helping to grow, and what are you picking from that part. So we'll quickly begin where every ecosystem begins. We'll begin with the roots. And with the roots, allow me I'll say it is my distinct honor this afternoon to introduce our first panelist, Coach Caroline Egesa. Caroline is a dynamic force when it comes to leadership and transformation, and of course, coaching across Africa and beyond. Today, Caroline is going to represent President of the International Coaching Federation of the Uganda chapter, ICF, where she serves as the Director for Events and Visibility. Caroline is a member of the Boardroom Africa. She is an IFC certified corporate governance board leadership trainer, and also combines her legal expertise, her boardroom acumen, and with a deep passion for unlocking potential. Caroline, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Aileen, and it's my pleasure to be here to celebrate with Africa this 20 years. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. So, Caroline, our session today is anchored on what becomes possible when we build an ecosystem together. So from where you sit, both in the ICF, Uganda, and of course across wider African coaching professions, becomes possible when coaches build a strong professional community together. And how does this look like in practice or on the ground?
Okay. Thank you very much, Aileen, once again, and it's a pleasure to be here representing the president of ICF Uganda chapter, Mr. Stephen Mukasa. He couldn't be here today due to other commitments that he has, but he really passed on his congratulations message to Nora and to Coach Africa. He appreciated Nora for hoisting the coaching flag really, really high. And she's, of course, in Uganda, we say she's the grandmother of coaching in Uganda. So, Nora, I thought it's important to pass on the president's congratulatory message to you. And so, Aileen, back to what the question that you asked. It's really important that you mention the whole ecosystem and how, the ICF Uganda chapter would contribute to this to ensure that there is collaboration. We have about 50 members or 52 members in the chapter currently. And of course, it's important that we all get together and see how is it that we come in. But the question that someone could be asking is, what then, what are the positive outcomes that would come out of our collaboration? And how does ICF Uganda chapter, view this at the end of the day? Of course, when you belong to a community like the ICF Uganda chapter, there's a lot of credibility as a coach. We all know that very many people come up and they say, I'm a coach, I'm a coach, I'm a coach. But these days, different organizations, different, executives, most especially, companies, before they hire you, they're going to say, you say you are a coach, but, where do you belong? What sort of coach are you? And so that's where it begins with the ICF. They're saying, come to us, be our member, be certified, be accredited, because you go through a certain process to refine you to become that professional coach that people are looking for. So when you belong to ICF and for the Uganda chapter, then it enhances your credibility. We all know that any profession, there has to be standards. People are looking for excellence. That's why Coach Africa is speaking about the excellence of the past, the future, and the present. So those standards also matter. So when you have a collaborative, ecosystem, it establishes the high standards and the ethical practices. Because once you're to become a member of ICF, there are certain things that you have to go through. So when you have this, then you are leading better. Then even all the coaches in Uganda who belong to ICF, we are leading them better. So this helps, the development of recognized brands, in the country. For example, we are here as ICF Uganda chapter representing and celebrating Coach Africa because of the brand that Coach Africa has. They have a reputation, that they have to keep, and they have moved 20 years. If they were not the brand that they were today, we would not be, here as ICF Uganda chapter, recognizing Nora, recognizing Coach Africa as well. So it's about credibility. It's about being able to build the standards as well. So that is where collaboration comes in. I know there are many coaches, from Uganda here, and they're saying, this is Coach Africa. This is what they're like. And they're collaborating with ICF Uganda chapter, meaning the ICF international body is also recognizing them in their own right. And that is where it also really counts. Then, of course, I cannot emphasize enough the networking, opportunities that come through. As coaches, we can build strong relationships with one another. We can facilitate sharing of different resources. We've all gotten training from different institutions, different academies. For example, we had the video where the gentleman was talking about his experience with the training from Coach Africa. And for the rest of the people who are on this call, they must be saying, this with Coach Africa, we can actually collaborate with them because they have, the top-notch services. And for us at ICF Uganda chapter, we're saying, come together as coaches. We are recognizing you, and we're saying, what is it that we can share? And this now runs into getting those opportunities for experience and best practices. I am about 5 years old or 6 years old in coaching. Nora is 20 years old in coaching. So me being able to be here and seeing what Coach Africa has done, I will be able to say now I am actually networking and, getting a lot of experience from Nora, but also from the other coaches that we've been able to listen to and those that are coming. So this is important in the whole ecosystem because networking, leads to collaborative projects that come up. You can hold joint things like joint workshops. And of course, there are mentorship opportunities that come up. From our list of 50 plus, members at ICF, Uganda, they all have different work experience. They all have different, private businesses as well. And we know that there are some who could be struggling, but there are those that are, thriving like Coach Africa. It has come a long way, 20 years. So we're saying, how do we build on those networks to ensure that mentorship opportunities are also available? Then I'll just now skip to increased visibility. When there is a collective effort, it can improve the visibility of coaches as professionals, especially here in Uganda. The different organizations are going to be looking for those, professionals. And here, for example, in the session before, we had Mr. Wabulia, who is currently from Bank of Uganda, and he was talking about the program that they run with, Coach Africa. And so this now is increasing that visibility for Coach Africa. But we also know that they must have found out that Coach Africa has coaches that are members of the International, Coaching Federation. They are credentialed, they are certified. So this, in a way, is how the whole increased visibility comes in. So this awareness can actually attract more clients and organizations that are seeking coaching services. For everybody, in the first session, we had about 80 coaches. So there must have been, representation from different organizations. And now they're saying, Coach Africa, it's linked to the International Coaching Federation. It's a member of the chapter. And so this really brings it out as well. The other thing that I would love to highlight is the professional development. Now, coaches can benefit from shared training and development opportunities. We hold different seminars as well. And, for example, it's next week whereby ICF is celebrating the International Coaching Week. There are going to be so many seminars, so many summits, and this is now going to improve the whole professional development. But I'm sure that for everybody, who is here, for those who are not certified, for those who are not accredited coaches, and they've been, doing it for the passion and the love of coaching. Now, an event like this is opening their eyes to the fact that it's good to be a professional. It's good to be certified. So ICF brings in, that factor, and that's why we are here to speak about something as important as that, because professional development does not stop, and everybody is looking for that professional. Aileen, we all know that trust and confidence is very, very critical before anybody takes up a service or even buys a product. We've all experienced it. Before you go to a hospital, before you go to a school, you want to, have that thing that I trust their services. I'm confident in what it is that they are doing. So a well-established coaching community like the ICF Uganda chapter, this can enhance trust and confidence among all the potential clients that we would have. So when coaches are part, of a recognized professional body like ICF Uganda chapter, like the ICF, global, then clients will feel more secure, in their choice as they engage, the coaching clients, because they value, their staff, they value their human capital, and they want to bring in people where they're confident and they trust the service that they're actually going to be able to give. Then I'll just touch a bit on the issue of, advocacy and representation. A united coaching community can advocate for professions' interests at even government and community levels. It can go as far as influencing policy, influencing funding and even support for coaching initiatives. I'm happy that during the break, Coach Africa featured, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Public Service. So that shows that they have a relationship. So public service, the Uganda Public Service must be knowing that, coaching is key. So how do we use such an individual, a public figure, to influence policy as far as, coaching is concerned? How do we introduce it to the government, bodies? And now we are saying, Coach Africa is a business, but we're saying there is ICF Uganda chapter, which represents the ICF Global. So when we have partnerships partnerships like this with Coach Africa, and we approach some of these, government individuals who are serving. That is how you can end up, influencing policy. So it's not just about personal coaches. It's not about private, companies that are doing coaching, but it's actually, a national, it's about a continent, it's an international. So to push that advocacy, to push representation, it all stems from the collaboration that you have in place. Then I'll just touch a bit about diverse specialization, by sharing, the diverse expertise that each of our coaches come in. We know that when it comes to coaching, there's some niching that, happens. There's some life coaches, there's some, executive coaches, there are business coaches, there's spiritual coaches, there are wellness coaches. So you'll find that there's a lot of diversity. So when you have these people collaborating together under one umbrella, it's a very powerful force. So when you have these, diverse expertise, the coaches together, we now create a comprehensive range of services, and then we can tailor them to the different client needs. It's really key that we appreciate what are the client needs before we start, saying that this is what we're going to offer you as coaches. So I thought that would also be, really important to put in there. And then just to use up my few minutes that I have, we have the cultural relevance as well. So when you have coaches collaborating on culturally relevant practices, this can better address the local challenges and the society needs, making coaching more applicable and more effective. We all know that what could be working, in Asia, in Europe, might not be a specific fit for Africa because we have diverse and different cultures. So when you have this whole collaboration going on, not just by ICF Uganda, we know that there are very many chapters actually in ICF, and as ICF we even collaborate with Kenya, with Ghana, with the Asians, and we come together. So when you have this whole cultural thing globally, then that collaboration is also making a lot of sense and recognizing that cultures are different and we need to package differently for them as well. And lastly, I'll just touch on research and innovation. Collaboration can lead to joint research initiatives because the world we're in keeps changing. So you cannot just have, you say, I'm a coach, and then you don't, continue doing research in different areas. What is it that, people need? And when you do the research, that means opportunities are created for exploration. Opportunities are created for innovation. So new methodologies come up, new practices come up, new tools are always being developed that can address a specific, challenge that is being faced by a specific client. So all this together, that is why collaboration is key. And that is why the ICF Uganda chapter also looks at it in this way, because the coaching industry is growing fast, but the needs of our clients are also ever evolving and ever, going up. So it's important that as ICF Uganda chapter, we come in to appreciate the whole ecosystem and what our contribution is going to be when we get the coaches together. They are professional. They are actually offering that excellent service. And so at the end of the day, you find that this whole collaboration thing and why ICF Uganda Charter chapter is also pushing for it and continues to push for it is because it elevates, the professional, the coach, you and me. It creates, a more robust, a more reputable and, effective coaching landscape at the end of the day. So, Aileen, that's what I had to share, why ICF Uganda sees it really key, sees it really important to, be part of Coach Africa as it celebrates, 20 years, because those are the benefits. That's the power in collaboration as far as the whole coaching ecosystem is concerned. Thank you very much. Aileen, we lost you for a moment there.
Is Aileen off?
Yeah,
Yes,
she's
I'm
back
back on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Caroline, for your submission. I heard you speaking to coaches of institutions coming together, not only to benefit from networking. You spoke to resources, you spoke to opportunities, you spoke to research, you spoke to visibility. You have really, made it very clear for us that as the charter chapter in this country, that is what you aim for. And as Coach Africa, of course, we are but I have one small question, and I hope you can share with the participants here, with the members on call. From the lens of ICF, what standards and ethics have got to be in place before a coach can actually trust each other, or before a coaching institution can trust each other enough to collaborate?
Thank you, Aileen. I think when you talk about, the standards that have to be in place before there is that collaboration, it's important that, for example, there's the issue of integrity is really, really key, is one of the key things, because we've seen, institutions being able to call in, coaches and, the whole ethics thing will come in. And that is why, for example, the ICF has that code of conduct that we all must adhere to. And even in all coaching sessions, when, my experience has been that when you enter into, starting that coaching relationship, you are saying there is a certain code of conduct that must be followed. And interestingly, it's not just in coaching, all, institutions, all areas, there's a code of ethics that must be followed, a code of conduct that must be followed. And so it's not really about the organization, it's also about the individuals in the organization. So it's important that each organization, each entity have their code of conduct, their code of ethics, like really written down. So that I'm sure even, for example, when Coach Africa is, bidding for certain roles to take up certain jobs, these are some of the documents that they will require for us to have, or require an organization to have, and say, what is your code of conduct? So it's important to have some of these policies in place before we can, go out to engage. And so I'll just implore, all of us to take an interest in visiting the ICF website. And because most of this information is actually on there and broken down. As coaches, we also know, the value that comes with, for example, confidentiality, because we are dealing with individuals, we are dealing with organizations. So no matter what, the situation is, that whole confidentiality is really, really key as we enter into these coaching partnerships with the individuals and with the organizations. So those are some of the things that I would really point out at this stage. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carol. You have just walked us through the roots of our tree, the trust, you've spoken to trust, you've spoken to standards, ethics, the professional community that holds it all together. And of course, from within the professional community, you have let us now move into collaboration, into action. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're having any questions, insights coming up from what Carol has shared, I know we shall come back to her. Keep them in the chat box. We'll keep looking in there and sharing with all of us. So our next panelist will quickly take us to the branches of our tree. It is my privilege to introduce Coach Ranjit Bedi, an internationally recognized executive team and organizational coach holding both ICF PCC and EMCC SP credentials. Ranjit has got over 25 years of experience, beginning in international banking at Citigroup and Barclays, including a role as regional director at Barclays Africa. Today, he partners with leaders across public, private, and social sectors, including the World Bank Group, and of course serves as a coaching excellence facilitator with coaching.com. I know all the coaches on the call have been to that website. His perspective is shaped by lived experience across Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Ranjit, you are most welcome. And I'll quickly ask you, you have delivered coaching engagements across continents, across cultures, and very different institutional realities. So from your experience, what do you feel becomes possible through cross-border associate coach collaboration that simply is not possible when a single coach or a single firm tries to do it alone? What is possible? Over to you, Ranjit.
Well, thank you, Aileen, and thank you to Coach Africa for that generous introduction. It's a joy to join my fellow panelists in this dialogue and also celebrating Coach Africa's 20-year anniversary. So, Aileen, coming back to your question, what becomes possible? I think what becomes possible is the ability to bring together global perspectives and the local African context in a manner that neither could have achieved alone. Neither could have achieved alone. And so let me share a little story of my own experience. And this goes back to a little over a year when I had the opportunity to coach a leadership team in Ghana through Coach Africa. And as I stepped into the engagement, in many ways, it was like returning to my own journey and returning home in many ways. As you mentioned in your introduction, I served on the African continent for nearly a decade in my first career. And it's also very deeply personal because it's the birthplace of my son. And so with that as a background, moving to the team in Ghana, and as I began this engagement, from the outside, in a very stereotypical view, you would say, hey, lots of diversity, lots of differences. Here was I coming in from India. The team was also not co-located. It was in different parts of the country. There were different cultural nuances, as well as, there were different expectations of leadership. So the leaders in that team were coming in from different institutions. Some were more younger, youthful, some were more elder, some were ministers, some were from entrepreneurs, some were more from the private sector, all coming together for a strategic initiative for the continent. And other countries were also as part of this program. So from the outset, this looked like a lot of diversity and differences, but what unfolded was a very cohesive and a high-performing team. And when I look back at that whole engagement, what really made the difference was not just coaching, but at the core and the root was collaboration. And collaboration.
You're muted, Ranjit.
My apologies. Thank you, Aileen. Not too sure how that happened. That was automatic. So it looks
Yeah.
like some AI picked up some disturbances.
Yeah.
I'm outside actually in the hills. So yeah, apologies.
Okay.
I'm not too sure where I left you or where did it go mute, just to make sure I pick up the chain.
Okay, you're talking about performance in that diverse team that
Diverse
wasn't
team.
only as a result of coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so it was basically a, collaboration of perspectives, identities, also of lived experiences of each one of us.
Mhm.
And so if I can bring in, that tree that you were talking about, and weaving that in, I felt coming together with Coach Africa already had trust in the sort of ecosystem and with this client, so I wasn't coming in blind. So in many ways, the roots were strong. The partnership that we created sort of met the needs of the client real time. And if I look back, both in my years of working across Africa and globally, one of the biggest pieces that I've come to learn is that and appreciate is that, many of us hold different and multiple identities. I had worked on the continent, and yet I hail from another country, but I also have lived and worked across the world. And what that incredibly helped me was holding space in a manner for the team, which was, of course, a sum of all these experiences, but also deeply grounded in their reality. And so very quickly, and I'm sure we'll have more dialogue, I think the fruits that came out of these branches and that intentionality was this team was, of course, extrinsically got a lot of awards. They were rated the best on the continent for that initiative. But I think more intrinsically, what was really heartening was it found its own voice, it found its own alignment, and found its way in sort of, growing together. So that was,
Yes.
particularly very satisfying and gratifying. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing with us that wonderful story of collaboration and, of course, with Coach Africa. So, Ranjit, just as a follow-up, what do you feel, again, looking at your experience working in all of these places where you have been, what do you feel it takes in practice for an associate coach network to deliver consistent quality across continents? Because I know we have coaches and consultants on this call, and sometimes those are some of the questions that come up. How can I do it ably, consistently across the different, countries or culture contexts?
Thank you. That's a great question. So let me think. I think, sometimes when you look at consistency, you look at a lot of standards, and I think there's a step before that. Before going to standards, I think to place a lot of importance on when you're collaborating is on the shared values. What are the values? What are the ethics? What kind of intentions are we coming into this arrangement? Before methods. And I think that when there's alignment around that, you can flex and go around to the quality aspects. And what that means, Aileen, is that spending a lot of time up front on aligning. I think that is very important. And also related to ongoing communication and calibration with the client throughout the engagement, not just at the kickoff, not just at the orientation, but having consistent communication throughout that and dialogue throughout that coaching process. For example, with this team in Ghana, any coaching journey, it's not linear like most journeys, right? So there will be bumps along the way.
Yeah.
And those are to be valued. And so how do you sort of communicate, calibrate in that collaboration? That is of essence. And I think if I can add one more big thing, is to really have a lot of cultural humility. And what that means is not coming in having all the answers, and just coming more so as coaches, we all come in with a lot of curiosity. But each human journey, each team's journey, each organization's journey, and the regions you're collaborating with has a unique context, and being very mindful of that. So I think those would be things in terms of maintaining that consistency. I think it's less about sameness and more about alignment. More alignment brings about that consistency. Yeah, so those would be just some of my few thoughts.
And I agree with you, Ranjit. I'm now thinking about, a coaching farm in Africa. I know you have, in a way, talked about this. I'm thinking about a coaching farm in Africa that is already thinking about scaling beyond their home country. What is that one thing that they should get right first? You've talked about aligning, cultural humility, consistent communication. Let's bring it down now to this farm. What are your thoughts on that, Ranjit? Yes.
I think, first of all, before scaling anywhere, scale your trust. First in your home market, build some credibility there. And I think when you're moving across borders, it's very important, back to the cultural piece, understand different cultures, whether it's organizations, whether it's regions that you're stepping into. I think that is of essence. And also when you're building a bench of coaches, of course, the credentials and a lot of stuff that Caroline spoke about, the credentials are important, but also look for people who are aligned with, what you stand for. And then there's fitment around there. And also looking at, the contextual understanding. Who is this coach beyond just a credential? What has been their journey? How could that add value both ways? The clients, to a firm, to individually, and how does that also nurture and nourish the coach, right? And how is the fitment there? So I think spending a lot of time there is very important. And again, goes back to, what's the intentionality? Spending a lot of time up front, and also having a culture and a mindset to work across geographies. Just by getting a group of coaches and sitting somewhere, it's a mindset operating across multiple regions, geographies, cultures. So I think protect a lot of those trust and quality pieces, and scale trust first, and sort of geography later.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ranjit. That has been powerful, and it resonates with my own experience in many ways. Yeah. So you're speaking to trust. Ranjit is saying scale your trust, over and above your credentials, over and above your capabilities, as you plan to move into the region. Scale your trust, understand the culture within which you want to play, and don't only create a bench of coaches with credentials. Again, think, what are their values? What else apart from credentials are they adding to this assignment? I guess that is what, any company or institution would want to know. Beyond credentials, what else? So Ranjit, thank you so much. You have just shown us branches in action. So my tree is already in action. Now let us quickly turn to what these branches can actually produce. Because whenever collaboration is real, it doesn't just deliver work, it grows the fruits themselves. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not seeing what is in the chat box. Feel free to keep pushing in the comments or any questions. We shall keep addressing them as we move on. So to move on, I did not warn you, I have a big panel with me. So we'll quickly move on to our next panelist. And it is a true privilege, ladies and gentlemen, for me to welcome the one and only Nankhonde Kasonde-Van Broek, a Zambian leadership development expert, my mentor, internationally award-winning executive coach. I had to slide that in. One of the continent's most recognized voices in African coaching today. Nankhonde was named in 2023 Global Coaching Legend by Thinkers 50, the highest tier of their global ranking. In 2021, she received the Thinkers 50 #1 Global Coaching and Mentoring Award. In 2019, she was named a Marshall Goldsmith Leading Global Coach. Nankhonde has been ranked among the world's top 30 coaches by global gurus consecutively in 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2025. There must be something about Nankhonde. She is also a member of the Africa List, the MG 100, and a partner of the Institute of Coaching at McLean Hospital, an affiliate of Harvard Medical School. Nankhonde holds a joint executive specialized master's in consulting and coaching for change for HEC Paris and Oxford University Said Business School. She is the founder and CEO of Zanga African Metrics, building digital workplace productivity solutions, executive coaching, leadership development, and organizational change and management. Nankhonde, you are most welcome to this wonderful conversation on collaboration, not only for coaches, but also for institutions that are using coaching as a tool to advance transformation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's talk about Zanga. Zanga is one of the clearest examples on this continent of African coaching, producing African intellectual property and putting it, before the world. What became possible for Zanga, for a wider field, if you were to think or consider, through your collaboration with Coach Africa, that would, on your own, probably have never been possible?
Thank you, Aileen, and greetings to everybody. I'm so delighted to be part of the celebration because this is an African milestone. And so here, even in Lusaka, we are dancing, we're celebrating what you have been able to put out to Africa and also the world. As a coach myself, my journey began, I think, like many would think about from my previous career in organizations. I then went into transformation of people and doing it through my own practice as a coach and management consulting as well. And it was through that experience that I realized to what extent a lot of our opportunity to step into the Africa we want actually is a reflection of the leadership we have at every level and not just at the top. And so as a coach, I was very fascinated to reverse engineer, how do leaders rise? How do they get to that point where they can sit around these executive tables, making decisions that impact nations, communities, teams, and even themselves? And how do we identify and support that journey in a way that reflects who we are as Africans, especially having been educated in the West, have been able to appreciate and maximize the tools that birthed me as a coach? An opportunity came to stop translating and start building. And I think it was from that perspective of becoming a builder and not just an operator of imported frameworks that I recognized an opportunity. And innate and inbuilt in that, I believe, was what I can only say was a divinely inspired door that opened up. What if we could design tools that built from what we are seeing and have learned and continue to appreciate in what the West has taught us, has presented, has evidenced and researched? If we were to couple that with a reflection in the mirror of the context we come from, what could those tools look like? And when they're specifically targeting an opportunity for leadership development, where are those tools? I didn't set out to build Zanga. I was looking for Zanga. And I think it's so important that wherever we are, whatever we are doing, we are in emerging markets. And so there are so many opportunities to actually manifest what you see and what bothers you. And for me, that was the case with Zanga. If those tools don't exist, that understand culture, that also understand management and leadership best practice, because they tend to be in different tools. And how do we use that information to see what a prototype could look like? Let's just play with it. Let's be curious. And as a coach, we take our clients down curiosity about what is possible. And so I did that. And I realized that if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. Through my own coaching experience, I started to identify and also be introduced. And that's what I love about the Coach Africa Network and other African coaching networks and presence, is that we are already connected through relationships, because the relationships are what led me to Coach Africa. It was those relationships that led me to understand that there are partners who are like-minded. There's an ecosystem that we're building, and different parts of that body have different insights. And so Zanga is a part of that body and the ecosystem that Coach Africa belongs to, that we brought some technology and tools to say, in this ecosystem of leadership development with an African face, let's not only look at building the models and yes, owning those, let's take it a step further and let's bring in credibility, because credibility also reinforces trust. How do we measure? Because that's an area I was also trying to answer. I can respond qualitatively to the coaching engagements I was going through and give feedback. But how do I support not just the HR practitioners or the internal or external coaches with the transformation? How do I help them also become business-minded and have language to speak to the CEO, to speak to the PS, to speak to the CFO, and appreciate that these investments require data? What we have done is bring data to the ecosystem. And our partnership with Coach Africa, I believe, has been such a great opportunity to leverage our strengths, leverage our geographies, and leverage our networks to ensure that excellence is supported with data. The work you do at Coach Africa was a clear alignment. It was a clear relationship. And I believe the partnership has already yielded results, not only enabled to see even the videos and the clients, the testimonies, but have the data to back it. That is where I believe the partnership has been strengthened. And it was an opportunity to see that the ecosystem is being built. What is your part and role in this body? Thank you.
Wow, wow. I've heard on the streets of my city, Kampala, people say data is the new currency. And just hearing you speak to that, I totally agree. So Nankhonde, what has it taken you to build an African coaching tool that institutions take seriously, locally and globally? I've read about Zanga. I've been privileged enough to certify, by the way, as a Zanga coach now. I'm certified within the Zanga. I know it's powerful, but also reading about it, it's like taken center stage when it comes to tools that are enabling capacity development or transformation within people and institutions.
Thank you. I speak in metaphors, having an African child born and raised with proverbs that I had to figure out and used to get frustrated about. Ironically, now I use them. But let me take it to what the idea and metaphor of the tree. I think what we've looked at Zanga is trees are everywhere, but different soils produce different types of trees, which means that to nourish them, to support them, there are different ingredients. And so when we were building Zanga, we really thought about what can we produce that is not only scientifically grounded, evidence-based and researched with global literature. We went on further to go to local literature. We wanted to understand, where are the African academicians, where are the African executives who have written a lot about their leadership experiences. And I loved the session earlier because those are methods, those are books, and those are records for future generations. So we looked and saw that we have a lot of Western literature and it's so rich. Let's see what is there in terms of bringing into this experience of building Zanga a nutrient from Africa itself. Let's understand what has been written about different leadership methods and approaches, even going into indigenous knowledge systems. I must say that we had to ground by ensuring the roots were secure in science and research. If you look at what is behind the Zanga Leadership Competency Framework and our assessments for leadership 360 feedback, employee engagement, workforce analytics, we were very clear that we must make sure that it is building on our contribution to existing research. It didn't just come and I woke up and decided we're going to see the world like this. We said, who has gone before us? And how can we bring them to this experience of, through technology, the ability to collect online data about measuring the journey to transformation in the leadership context?
Think about, the competency framework that you have developed, and just again from experience, utilizing the Zanga tool in some of our assignments, it is very clear. You support from a place of knowing, and we want to congratulate Zanga for that. So Nankhonde, where do you see the gap currently between the Africa tools that we have and the ones that we still urgently need? Because I know that as a society, we are evolving, our leadership is evolving, and so are the people.
Very interesting, because we are about to launch our Human Capital Insights report tomorrow. And a lot of the conversation is speaking to 3 shifts on the continent. The first is related to structure. Our environment is changing. Urbanization, digitalization is really changing the way we experience what we call our day-to-day in every sector, and our experience as citizens of our own nations. But also, when we look at those structural shifts, we think about the Africa Free Trade Agreement. So all these things were brought into perspective to think that we are now moving people, which means we're also moving talent across borders. So it's not just bodies moving across borders, it's talent, it's the minds, it's the strengths of certain competencies that the East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, and Southern Africa have. And so how do we bring into that the understanding that there are structural shifts happening? Then there are capability shifts in terms of skills and sectors. Technology has brought, I think, to the rest of the other experiences what fintech did to financial inclusion. Now technology is doing to other areas in every sector. But it means that capability and skills are being understood differently. We've had traditional methods of understanding how to recruit, develop and retain talent in organizations. And they've been pretty much mirrored for a long time against qualifications. But understanding more about the shift is about competencies. So mapping competencies, not just qualifications, not just where you went to school, but what skills do you have to do the job? Making people and workplaces reflect the demands and not the lines that allow you to come in. That is also shifting. So the skills that are available and can be transferable, how we read them and deploy them and understand their value is shifting, because the human capital is a currency. And then the third one is the social shifts. We've already spoken about it, the generations, Gen Z. How do we have that reverse mentorship? Something in our data is showing, interestingly, that resilience around the youth tends to be lower. More experience can be leveraged to support across generation pollination, but also seeing that they're redefining what community means and what respect means. So those 3 shifts for us were the backdrop to us now thinking, yes, you can collect data, but for it to be valuable and a currency, you have to have an exchange place where it can be traded for results. If transformation at a national level, organizational level, community level, and individual level is the a goal at the end of the day, how do we then bring those insights that we have from the assessments and the data into the context which is what is happening to Africa? And how do we break it down by region? But how do we also engage on this Africanization, Pan-African relationships, so that we can translate that into the results that are needed at every level? So for us, from a Zanga perspective, I think it's so important that we must appreciate our context, the peculiarities. When we talk about complex environments, we've always had complex environments. And a wake-up call for me was sitting in my MBA class and being taught about vulnerable, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environments. And I thrived and I loved it. Then I thought, today I woke up, there was no water. The lights were on load shedding and we're still running, we're still functioning. Then I thought about, when I sit into a meeting room, I'm wearing several hats. Some of them are visible. My role as CEO in this company. But my other roles, my spiritual side, because we've brought our faith into the firm, and then also my community and traditional side. I'm also seen as a mother to the team. All those aspects of who we are embraced in the context of the workplace. How do we ensure that they are brought in and leveraged where they can really strengthen and lead us to achieve our results? But also, how do we understand what needs to be shifting in what we've also inherited and our values from those who taught us and came before us? Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, and kudos to Zanga. There is a question in the chat box, and I just wanted to quickly bring it on. Somebody's asking, share more light around reverse mentorship. You talked about reverse mentorship. Yes.
Thank you. It's very interesting because when we started looking at what's happening with the demographic dividend, how does the demographics of the youth actually become a dividend? It means there's some value that they're creating and we can translate. But it means then, how do we fit into the different generations from millennials to X and Y and Z? How do we not look through only the traditional lens of where wisdom comes from, where opportunity and results can be achieved, and appreciate that the younger generation has something to offer? There's a proverb in my language that speaks to this, where it says, an ant can build an anthill, and it talks to the wisdom from something small informing, its environment and the world. So it's talking about there is some value in what Gen Z is teaching us in the workplace, but also in society. How do we create an intentional and deliberate dialogue? It means we both have to be open. And so in the workplace, we both have to realize that whilst there is wisdom from experience, there is tradition that we pass over generations through our cultures. This new experience of these digital natives are being exposed to so much information so quickly that it took us decades to acquire. That maybe even in that, and looking at AI now, there's an opportunity for them to inform us on how we can continue to achieve excellence, because we're all trying to look for excellence, and excellence is a journey. But those who contribute to it are the relationships we have in the workplace. And those relationships are not just the structure, they're also the demographics. In most of the financial sector, and we've seen this with clients, they are of the youth demographic. And so how do we look at the future of banking? That has already been revolutionized with some of the minds of the people who are going to go on to actually implement some of the innovations that are changing the way we live. And that's why the table has seats for both generations, all generations. Now, how do we do it in a respectful way? How do we do it in a way that honors our culture? Is now where challenges in organizations and communication come in. How do we support leaders to create the spaces to have the feedback sessions across generations and not one way? Feedback is a two-way street, and we can see CEOs who appreciate and spend time with the different demographic groups in their organizations on ideation, on thinking about solving problems and solutions, are more enriched and more equipped to lead their businesses into the future. So there is value and we need to harness it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. So we shouldn't see the disparities between age or cultures as a threat. We should take that disparity on, we should be able to explore it and use it to our own advantage. That is what I'm hearing you say. And
Yes.
there's another question from Jawara Lumumba. I think we can address it quickly. He's saying that there are Afrocentric cultures in the West. What are your thoughts of expanding your collaboration to incorporating these members of the larger diaspora for sharing and mutual benefits?
Thank you so much for that question, because I'll go back to the roots of the tree. Where it sprouts and the soils that go on to produce fruits is very important. And where I started with the science, the tools we have developed speak to high context and low context cultures. Basically, the difference between environments where relationships are entered into, sustained, and also exited, or where conflict happens in different ways. Our Ubuntu traditional inheritance has brought us into community and collective experiences and the value of traditional systems. Those are high context cultures that are in emerging markets, which means it's Africa, Middle East, and Asia. So we were very clear when we were building Zanga that we're not building it just for Zambia. We're not just building it for Africa. Zambia alone has over 70 ethnic groups. So we were already sitting in that pool of working together across different ethnic groups. What we did with the science was look at what is the psychology behind relationship systems and how people engage and communicate, and how does that affect how they achieve results. And we identified that the differentiating factors were around communication. And so when we look at the tools that we've developed, it is, yes, Africa is our home, Africa is our impact, but the psychology behind it is global and universal. We've taken universal principles about human development. And that's why I think it's very important to appreciate that our tools are applicable in both contexts. They don't say that it's better to have the culture and understand it. All they say is that all our tools show is what aspects of the culture are contributing to the experience in this organization, in this team, in this individual. And what is emerging is then what is reflected. So whether you're in London, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Tokyo, whether you're in Kampala or Lusaka, and that's why we had a session with Harvard University Coaching Institute, because they wanted to appreciate how we were able to bring in that when we had worked with Japanese coaches and corporate executives, they could see their culture. They could see that their organizational systems are heavily anchored in relationship systems. So from this perspective, they are applicable globally. And I'm very happy to say that, because we were deliberate and intentional to say it's not just about building African solutions. It's about African contribution to global human challenges and complexities, because globalization has brought everything to our doorstep. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you so much, Nankhonde. There are questions in the chat box that I'll keep bringing, as we proceed. But clearly, ladies and gentlemen, we now know that fruits do not appear without a trunk. And as part of our next segment, after Nankhonde's wonderful sharing, we are moving to the trunk of the tree. What does it take to make collaboration sustainable day in and day out? And with that, I'd like to introduce our next panelist. And yes, it is indeed a privilege to introduce Mr. Hugben Byarugaba. Hugben is a leader in African systems strengthening and quality improvement, with over 19 years of impact across Eswatini, Uganda, Rwanda, South Sudan, Lesotho, and Kenya. Hugben has partnered with international NGOs, private firms, and major donor-funded programs to drive sustainable change at scale. His expertise is continuous quality improvement and systems strengthening, hence bringing what we call a distinctive lens to today's conversation. Hugben, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Aileen, and greetings to everyone. Thanks for attending this summit. Congratulations, Coach Africa.
Thank you. Thank you, Hugben. And let's quickly deepen. You have spent 2 decades strengthening systems across the continent, mostly in health, where the consequences of weak systems are immediately, or are made visible when we get any strikes of any sort. Bringing that lens to coaching for us, I'd like to know, what does collaboration actually look like in the real sense, working within coaching systems? What works? What doesn't work? And how can we create systems that can stay for long?
Thank you so much, Aileen. I need to add that I've been a member of Coach Africa. I worked with Coach Africa about 13 years ago, and I'm saying that because it will come into the discussion as well. Currently, I'm chair and board chair for this electricity. I need to shake myself so that it can come back. Okay. All right. So that's going to be important when we come back. So the tree, yes, it's got the trunk, and this is really talking about platforms. It's talking about institutions. It's talking about the networks. And if you realize that when you look at it, it means if it were a business, you've moved from your startup, you've moved from what needs to be done by the founder, the entrepreneur, to creating systems, creating processes that actually can be scalable. So the trunk is what really is going to hold the branches and going to hold the fruits at the top, and be able to also translate what is coming from the ground to the top. So what that means in practical sense is that you need to standardize your systems. We all start up as small organizations, sometimes individuals, small organizations to institutions. But one thing that is clear is we need to standardize what we actually do. So, for example, when I was working with Coach Africa 13 or so years ago, we really did start to realize the need to standardize what we do, such that the different associate consultants that were working with Coach Africa could have a standardized way of doing things. I normally give this example that wherever you go, Coca-Cola or McDonald's are 99% the same product. They will taste the same in South Africa, in Egypt, in Mozambique, in Ghana. Why? Because the system for recruiting the people, for supervision, for manufacturing the product has been so standardized that it's certain that you'll get the same good result. So I do believe that as we're looking at building a coaching fraternity, a coaching framework for Africa, we need to be able to standardize these things. So the good thing is the credentialing is being done. We're looking at different systems. We are looking at different tools that are being developed and that are homegrown, like for African contexts. But I think we need to be able to standardize such that the engagement processes are all to point. Again, you realize that, for example, with Coach Africa, there's been this ISO standardization, and therefore, from how you identify what opportunity to do, to the decisions, the go, no-go decisions, to identifying the team to work with, proposal stage, the contracting stage, everything is formalized. You're clear of the process and what is going to happen. And that the transparency, even with the finances, it's all on the table. So I do believe that if we create platforms and institutions that have standard processes that do not necessarily depend on someone's who is on the desk today, who is in office today to make the decision, but it is a clear process for making these decisions, this would be really great. For the young coaches, the standard processes would really help to say, what does it take to really become part of this network? So the pathway is going to be so clear. And therefore, I do believe that while it's important to have the basics, the roots, which talk of integrity, which talk of values, and I do really agree with the previous speaker that there is more to what you bring. It's more of what you did not learn in school. And by that, I mean the integrity, the professionalism, the transparency. That is really so critical. But when we come to the trunk, we need to be able to have a standardized way of doing things. We need to have proper systems. And looking at the scale to the African stage, we probably need digital systems where we can place the good work we've done, where we can place the best practices, where we can place the communication systems and so on and so forth. So I really do think that for us to get to that level at the African stage, we do need to be able to define what quality delivery is and define the processes and know what systems are supposed to be followed that are across the different players in Africa.
Wow. And I hear you very well. And I'm just here thinking, now that you're talking about systems, when you look at the African coaching field, yeah, where do you feel it is strong and where do you feel it's still operationally fragile?
Thank you so much. I think it has been said earlier. One area that's been weak has been the use of data to demonstrate return on investment. Yes. These days, the saying that in God we trust and everyone else bring data is becoming much more, it's the highlight of the day. So I think being able to demonstrate organizations that coaching and not only training and capacity building and organizational development is the thing is really, really critical. So demonstrating that is to me, there is no other way apart from using data. Data and those systems I was talking about to demonstrate that the results you're going to get are going to be following a deliberate process and then be able to demonstrate at the end of the day. But again, I think there is a missing gap in terms of the different generations and the different players. You have people who are upcoming in the field, probably getting to learn coaching and being trained. You have those who are starting to practice, and you have those that are very experienced gurus. Where is the link between these three so that as Africa, we are able to build lasting networks? So I think there is a need to have a platform that connects these three. For instance, there are times I ask Dr. Nora that we need to profile you and write down what you do and how you do it, so that when we are applying for consultants opportunities, we do away with the question of will Nora be on the group, on the team, so that we have so many Noras. She's at the front, but we need a generation before her and those who are coming to have a system of passing on this knowledge. And this can only be done if we document it, if we document the best practices, if we document what we do, and have a platform that links us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Hugben. I'll quickly move to our next speaker. I know by now the trunk and the roots are together. Just listening to you, to Nankhonde, and to Ranjit. Systems and standards, we can see that. Now, I'm curious to know what holds a profession together over time, yeah? Is it only systems, or is it also people developing with each other? And on that note, it is my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our one and only Toniah Khumalo. Toniah is a director and CEO of TK Coaching. She is an ICF professional certified coach, an expert at conscious coaching, and a respected mentor within both the Comensa and the Coach Africa. Toniah has got over 3,400 hours of coaching and extensive experience as a lead trainer for the ICF accredited programs. She serves as a coach mentor on the credentialing program. And Toniah, we are privileged to have you contribute to this conversation today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Aileen, and congratulations to Coach Africa. We could be dancing right now, right?
No,
because
right?
We are a rhythm nation.
You can imagine how the morning started
Yes,
with Danny and on the dance floor. So,
exactly.
Toniah, let's talk mentorship. Yeah, we know it to be one of the most under-celebrated forms of collaboration because in many cases it's invisible work. But you and I both know that no coach in this profession got here alone. You've held so many hands, even within the academy and outside the academy. What becomes possible when coaches are developed through deliberate mentorship and collaboration? And of course, what is at risk when they don't do this?
Awesome. No, thanks very much. Firstly, let me just say I am proud to be associated with Coach Africa, an organization that has transformed lives and also careers through leadership development, professional coaching, and also a capacity building across the continent itself. Just before we started, I've seen two of my mentees, which was Anne and Valerie, and it just, you create families when you collaborate with Coach Africa. The people that we are continuing being in touch, wanting to know how they're doing, and vice versa. So maybe to answer your question could be, for my collaboration with Coach Africa, I have seen firsthand the power and the importance of what it creates, or the powerful landscape it creates when we create structures that support coach trainees at every step of their journey of becoming credentialed coaches, or helping them with their qualification. So what I'm seeing is that the importance and the power of creating structures when we do that. And with my collaboration with Coach Africa is that the collaboration with the organization, which is Coach Africa, has been and continues to be a success. And this is because of the shared commitment from myself and Coach Africa to quality and integrity. So not only by ensuring that our coach trainees meet global standards, but it's also very important, and as I've learned a little bit from Dr. Nora, that we need to also train and collaborate and network in embodying the values that resonate within the African context. And continuing with the collaboration with Coach Africa and with the mentoring of Coach Africa, it is and always will remain a win-win for all the stakeholders, actually, for the coach trainees, for the mentors, for Coach Africa itself, right? Or firstly, for the coach trainees, they have an opportunity to gain confidence in their coaching profession, because they walk away with their globally recognized credentials, of which is ICF. And for people like myself, which are mentors, right, when we experience the reward of shaping future leaders, as I've mentioned, that the people that I have mentors through Coach Africa, we keep in touch. They tell me when they are promoted at work, when they've started their own coaching firms. And it is beautiful to see that the people that you have worked with are carrying the torch in this profession with both integrity and great quality that is globally recognized. And for the organization itself, which is Coach Africa Academy, I believe it then strengthens the reputation and creates this hub of excellence in Africa itself, right? The Africa that we all want to be proud of, right? So in the wider ecosystem, there's benefits for everybody, because then we see this growing pool of credentialed coaches.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, I resonate with what you're saying. This is what we are seeing every day, and maybe even more purpose for this conversation. Collaboration as a key driver. Yeah. Just listening to you, I'm curious to know, what does a healthy mentorship ecosystem look like in real practical terms?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Commitment from both the mentor and the mentee, firstly.
Yes.
And what's also important is the mentee needs to want it badly, right? The third part of it, I think somebody else in the panel had already mentioned about people calling themselves coaches when they are not credentialed. Firstly, we have all administered some medication to our children or to other people, but we don't walk around calling ourselves doctors. So it is important, right, that when you are in that meeting, when you are looking for that for that job, or when you are looking for that project, you are not second guessing yourself. You sit confidently to say, I have been through the system. I have done everything that I needed to be done, and I am qualified and credentialed and globally. Like, for example, it is also very important for the coachee to know that it's not only about the skill that you are learning. This is a business. So it's very important for you to make sure that you have integrity when you are selling yourself out there, to have integrity that this is what I have done, this is what I hold in my hand. So the mentee needs to want this badly enough. The mentee needs to show up in such a way that you should know that you are not only showing up for yourself, but you're showing up for the whole industry of coaching in the whole of Africa. So when you know you are carrying the continent, you better show up with integrity and pride.
I'll let that sit for a minute. The purpose is real, the cause is real. And from what I'm hearing you say is that as coaches, how can we play this game in an extraordinary way? How can we commit to the larger purpose, to the broader sense of what it is that we want to create on the continent or even for ourselves? So mentor-mentee relationships are very, very critical. Commitment, from what I'm hearing, is the cement for this relationship and other values, as you have rightly mentioned them. Thank you so much, Toniah. We're going to hear from you again. I don't know where there are comments in the section. Yes, there's a question for you, Toniah, before I leave you. Somebody from Africa Center for Entrepreneurship would like to know. He says, I want coach training and mentorship badly. How do I start? Okay. Would you like to take that, Toniah? Just give him foundations. Yes.
I'm sure that is yours, Aileen, but from a coaching perspective,
Yes,
and also
it is.
the business of coaching. Firstly, start, what is your goal? Have a goal. What is it that you want to look like? How do you want to show up? What is it that you want to benefit within your career, your life as well? Because really, coaching is not about going into the office or just meeting a person and having a one-on-one. It becomes your life. So architect your life. Who do I want to show up as? Then you have your own goal. Then from that goal, you work backwards. So if I want this goal for myself, if this is how I want to show up in rooms, what is it that I need to do? Firstly, what you need to do is to contact Coach Africa. Contact Coach Africa, right?
Yes.
And then along your journey, you will meet up with me to mentor you when you are ready to write your exams, and also with the business of coaching. Because I did coaching. I started like 13 years ago. We did the coaching, but the business side of it, or entrepreneurship of it, we were never taught that. So luckily for me, I had a sales and marketing background that enabled me. So I kept on touching people that I worked with, other coaches. I created my own system, my own network of people to help me. So I wasn't scared to knock on those doors. And it's also very important that when you get qualified, you should also know that you're going to have to continue developing yourself. You don't get your diploma and that's it. You're going to have to continue developing yourself, getting credentials, and not only have multiple streams, not only coaching, but also mentoring, right? And also doing workshops as well, because one of the things that I'm known for in my country is emotionally intelligent workshops that I do in the workplace, or how to build emotional intelligence in the workplace. So continue developing yourself, reading, and having a healthy network of coaches, because this business can be really, really lonely. So you don't want to just give up one day. There's a lot of people that can assist where needed.
That I would like us to turn to our next panelist, and it is my distinct honor to introduce Sairamesh G, known to many of us as Sai. Sai is the first ICF Master Certified Coach in the region, and he has got more than 20,000 hours of professional coaching experience across business, individuals, and teams. He is the founder of Coach for Excellence Africa. Coach for Excellence Africa is an ICF Level 1 and Level 2 accredited coaching education service provider, and C4E and Coach Africa have collaborated to create Coach for Excellence Africa. So for offering, we have the ICF accredited coach education programs, SCC Path, PCC Path, which we call the formative programs within the coaching space. Our vision with Coach for Excellence Africa is really to aid coaches to grow for client transformation. So anything to do with your growth as a coach, you want to come to Coach for Excellence Africa. So we're here, and anything concerning your growth, your skill development, etc., is what we are here to serve you with. So back to Saira. Saira, we are privileged to have you. You have been an assessor with the ICF for the longest time. You have actually assessed me. You have assessed so many people on this call. We have many stories about you in the background. I'll share with you one of these good days. Yeah, we are privileged to have you on this journey of celebration. And credentialing is often misunderstood, as you can imagine. Some see it as a bureaucracy, others see it as a barrier. You have spent a career making it a bridge. What becomes possible through Coach for Excellence Africa in the Coach Africa partnership for coaches who came through it, and of course for the wider field? What do you think has become possible?
Thank you so much, Aileen. It's a privilege to be talking here today. I hope people are able to see me. I'm not able to see myself on the screen. I don't know, that's playing a little truant here. Not sure if it's at my end or I need to be pinned somewhere. My image needs to be pinned so
we
that I
can
come on the
see you
screen.
very, very well.
All right, thank you. That's nice. For a change, I don't get to see my face, right? I love to see myself.
No.
All right. This is my new look right now. Pretty harsh summer. All right. So all that gray growth is gone. So the new ones are coming up. So baby.
Yeah.
All right. So like a tree, things have to root. So I remember one very interesting thing. My wife was very upset on the other day. She says, "What have you been doing in the garden there? I don't see this plant growing at all." And then until my gardener said, "The roots are taking shape. It has to grow. It's growing beneath the soil before it can grow above the soil." So when we talk about credentialing, now before credentialing, the coaching education forms a very significant part, and that's where the roots are that you talked about. The right kind of education, the right interpretation of the coaching competencies, right understanding of the coaching standards, and therefore propagating them through a methodology that involves the participants to learn effortlessly as second nature to their own being. And then comes the practicing, which is learning. So we have created actually a 5-step learning model. So what we talk about learning, doing, right? Reflecting on what you have done, and then again, learning continuously, learning it the right way. Oftentimes we have heard, you know, doing things makes people perfect, right? Now, many of them said, doing things right makes people perfect. Now, the question is, are you doing the right things in order to make it perfect? All right. So perfection makes people perfect. So sometimes people may be imperfecting perfection itself. So if you're not learning coaching the competencies appropriately, then you're going to be following the wrong way of demonstrating the competencies and not enabling the client to maximize their potential. Okay, so now comes the credential part. The credential part, what you have equated with the trunk of a tree, right? Now the trunk of a tree keeps continuously expanding as it's growing taller and taller to create the leaves and the fruits so that the ecosystem underneath that can thrive. So when you talk about credentialing, there was a time when, as an ICF coaching subject matter expert, we got into an argument within the credentialing and standards. And when we were creating what was called as the behaviorally anchored rating scale for ACC and PCC, I mean MCC, PCC does have what is called as markers, right? So what gives ICF the right to be credentialing people? This was something which we were questioning at that point of time. And should we have a credentialing mechanism in place? Now, what came about as we were brainstorming was, how do we ensure accountability of our coaches, the ICF members? How do we ensure standardization? How do we ensure the clients really get coaching? Clients are not shortchanged. Like somebody said, people are calling themselves coaches. Now, you can do, you don't have anything to do with people who call themselves coaches. At ICF, what we say is ICF is not a watchdog. ICF is only setting standards. So ICF talks about what are the standards for someone to be a coach. So what are the standards for someone to be an ICF coach is more appropriate than saying what are the standards that's for someone to be a coach. So the distinction plays a very, very important role. So when it comes to credentialing, we are talking about the summative feedback that the coaches get following a coach training program and having gone through hours of coaching experience. And when they submit their coaching performance tapes, those tapes gets listened to and they are given a summative feedback as part of their formative journey. Though the formative journey happens inside the coach training academy, now the credentialing is one which actually gives them the summative feedback. Now, there is going to be a change in as early as January 2027, right? So some of this summative feedback which coaches have been receiving as a result of performance evaluation will make way, because ICF now has institutionalized what is known as formative mentor coaching. So mentor coaches will now need to have what is called as mentor coaching specialization, which will come into effect as of Jan 2027. So your mentor coaches will be giving you return feedback. So many of you who have been certified by Coach for Excellence would have received their feedback, and some people would be receiving anytime soon. Will know how the evaluation of their coaching behaviors take place, and what kind of feedback and what kind of developmental areas are there which are provided as feedback for them, right? So the other important aspect is I did write this article sometime back, this was many years back, when ICF decided to propagate credentialing. So this went based on what my mentor once told me, my mentor, not mentor coach. He was talking about grace and ease, right? In whatever you do. So then we said the credentialing is a gateway. Acquiring a credentialing or a credential is a gateway to ease and grace. So this is what gives you the right to enlist a client and coach a client, because you have gone through certain standardized learning. You're being assessed based on that particular standards. And it means that you have that capacity to work with the client for their potential development as such. So that's one area. The other area is earning a credential. All right. Now, we live in a world where we have what is called as the FOMO culture, the fear of missing out. When there are others around me getting credential, why is that? I am not. And therefore, one way of looking at it is the goal for the individual is more internal. It's more aspirational when they are looking at earning a credential. So that way they're looking at making themselves more distinct, unique, unlike the ones who are masquerading as coaches already in the environment. Okay. The other important aspect is based on the ICF core values. So there are 4 core ICF values on which ICF is built. So one is professionalism, right? So we are talking about the right education, the right way of labeling oneself, and therefore honoring the client with the right kind of coaching ability, and the credentials, which makes them very distinct. And the other aspect is collaboration, and collaboration is what you talked about. And when I was reflecting, Nankhonde also talked about it. She talked about Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is in your culture. And what to me it says is, as a person, you become a person through others, right? And that's what it said. And therefore, if it's very deeply in your culture, living collectively, then collaboration is the order of the day. Okay. And obviously humanity. So we are respectful of humans, human needs, human need for growth. And the fact remains that as human beings, all of us like to grow. And that's what many psychologists who studied in those days in terms of humanistic psychology talked about. As human beings, we continuously set goals and try to better. We try to be better than what we were yesterday. So, which is what we are looking at. And then the other aspect is equity. Everybody across the world needs coaching, and everybody needs access to coaching, right? And that being the case, access to growth, right? Not necessarily coaching, education, coaching, knowledge, information. Everybody needs that, and they have their rights to that, and we need to make it available. And the fact remains that the African continent is now poised for growth. And in fact, it's pretty envious, I must say, at this point of time. What I envy is technologically, the continent probably is behind. And coaching is actually taking shape. The awareness of coaching has increased so much that you're coming into coaching and democratizing coaching at a point of time when the technology worldwide, there has been a tectonic shift. You're coming into the marketplace when there is AI, then there are coaching platforms which are available, right? And you're going to be making coaching available to people and create that humanistic culture, right? To help people to become better human beings, not just become better performers. Maybe it's for the AI to make people better performers, but then to make people better human beings, it's only possible through Ubuntu, right? And our collaboration between Coach for Excellence and Coach Africa started many years ago when it started with one lonely lady, right, who's amongst us at this point of time, and who's been the person who's actually laid the seeds for Coach Africa, right? It started with Nora evincing her interest to become a credentialed coach. And that's where we started talking, and she reached out. I don't know how. The universe just conspired, and we had to get together. And she was my first credentialed coach, right? She had to unlearn what she had learned and then relearn and go through the entire process through Coach for Excellence. And the irony is, from her family, we at least have 2 generations of coaches who have gone through the coaching education at Coach for Excellence. And least to say, we'd have probably had the third, because her daughter-in-law also wanted to be enlisted into the program when the little one was just born in Canada. Then I had to tell them, hold on a while. you need to mother the little one, then becoming a coach. So that's the way it is. And we have had couples from the same family coming in and learning at Coach for Excellence, for the simple reason that at Coach for Excellence, the way we look at it is we believe this is the place for coaches to evolve and clients to transform through our holistic coaching, right? Now, so Aileen, you would have questions on the credential path. And there was one, with your permission, I just want to respond to a question which came in the chat box. I think it was from, it said Sophia Hussain.
Sophia? Let me
Yeah.
dig it up.
She had asked, okay, so there could be
Sophia.
some way that we could actually help her out. One, when she says that she very badly needs coaching, but then also funds are something. All right, so we'd be happy to help, provided she's
You
willing to
found
pay
it?
us forward. All right, I did notice that. Okay.
I think I missed her question. Must be.
Yeah, Samatus.
Yeah.
All right. So
We'll pick
maybe
it
she
up.
could get in touch with us separately offline,
Yes.
and then we could see how we
Yes.
could help her out. Yeah. Okay. So that's
Okay.
something which I
Yeah.
said, right?
We'll do that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much, Saira. And again, from your experience, I'd just like you to speak a little more to credentialing in terms of how does it strengthen the quality, the confidence, and the power of earning. I know you've talked about the ease and the grace, and I definitely get it. But you want to also speak to that coach, to that potential coach, whose question is, this thing, is it worth my investment? What would your thoughts be on that?
I would step back. I would first of all say, what is the calling for the person to become a coach? What's the calling, right? And the second important part is when the calling is clear, right? When there is clarity around it, that gives the opportunity for the person to now start looking at how the individual can strategize, market, and sell themselves, because they're going to be a brand. The individual is going to be a brand, whoever is the coach, right? What is that I'm going to be offering to the universe? What is that the universe wants? What is that I can offer? How can I serve the universe, right? And the next step would be to strategize it. Okay. So the product, the strategy, am I going to, coach somebody and say, hey, why don't you go and help me find someone who might be interested? Or would you know people who would know of others who might be interested? Right. Now, this entire thing stems from when I was preparing for my MCC credentials and submitting my tapes to ICF, my mentor coach said, you're going to be an MCC anyway, right? Because you're coaching at that level. Probably I had the foundation in behavioral sciences and applied psychology, so we were working on that. And she said, now is the time for you to go out and shamelessly sell yourself, right? The point which caught up is shamelessly sell yourself. So why hold yourself, right? So what's the elevator pitch that you have to tell somebody who are you and what do you do? And what would they get by working with you? So that's the strategy, and market it, brand it, package it, market it. Now, these three are very, very important for someone to go out and generate coaching business. All right. Now, if that calling is there, then I say, open your wallet, pay your fees, and enlist into the program. When you do not have that, I say, don't spend your hard-earned money. Keep it in your pocket. Come back to me when you're ready. All right. So that's the way I look at it. Okay. Earning a credential just by adding the 3 letters designation next to your name. Honestly, you want to know? You're not going to have people lining up outside your door saying, hey, I want to be coached by you. All right. So you will have to work your way out. So you're a business yourself. You have to go out, market, and sell. Find that opportunity, go out and sell. Right? Sell it in person, sell it business to business, sell it digitally, whatever works. Right? So you have to create your own system to go out and sell. Now, when you earn that credential, does that mean an ACC coach is inferior to an MCC coach? Well, I beg to differ. If the ACC coach has got solid foundation in their education and various other aspects, now they may be equally good as a master coach. All right. That's because probably they have chosen to be an ACC because they just started their formative journey and just acquired that 100 client coaching hours, and they have just got into ACC. And cumulatively, they are building their hours to become MCC. Now, there was a point of time when ICF said your starting point was ACC, but then to become an MCC, you had to have that 2,500 hours of coaching experience. Now, this is pre-2012, right? So I was the first ACC to MCC straight, okay, at that point of time. Now, subsequently, after 2012, ICF brought in change in the policy, and they said, you will have to be a PCC to be an MCC. Now, to become a PCC, you don't have to be an ACC, right? So that's some change which happened after that. Now, to the greatest important point over here for coaches is how are they using their formative skills to help the person being coached? All right. So that's something which is very important. And I would say all credentials, certifications are secondary, as long when it comes to business development, you have the ability to go out, brand yourself, strategize your offering, market it, sell it.
You said it so well. You said it so well, Sai. Thank you so much. Because even as we, continuously meet students into the academy, those are the questions that come up. Can you assure me that by the end of 9 months, I'll be able to catch this amount of money? Yeah. And what Sai is saying, there's work to be done. There's you positioning or presencing yourself in the market. And what does that mean? So that opens up a whole chapter of the business of coaching, that our coaches should really, really take seriously if they want. I mean, Coach Africa is celebrating 20 years. I'm sure if Nora, the founder, was able to share with us that other backstory on ROI, it would be an interesting one. Yeah. So, Saira, thank you so much. It's good to work with you. Thank you so much for supporting us. You have talked about the trunk of this tree very, very well. And this has got everything to do with the credentialing journey, with, everything that we feel professional coach should have in order to serve. That is what holds the trunk of this tree. At Coach Africa, we are also licensed with the African Board for Coaching, Consulting, and Coaching Psychology. So we have different pathways. We've got the ICF pathway, and we also have the African Rooted Framework under the ABCCP. And all of these two belong to the trunk. These two are the ones that form up the trunk of our tree. So collaboration, definitely without standards, can lead to confusion. Yeah, standards without collaboration can lead to exclusion. And Africa coaching, I feel, needs both. So, ladies and gentlemen, the chat has been buzzing. Thank you so much, Saira, for your contribution to this conversation. I'll read Marco Nowinski's comment. I don't know whether it's a comment or a question. Let me just read it. He's saying that credentials are an entry point into coaching, making sure that coaches follow basic principles and have got good ethical standards. But no organization can act as an authorizer. So in the end, it is the client who selects the coach. Some value credentials, but at executive levels, this becomes less important. I work with CEOs and was never asked for credentials. I have certifications, but clients want experience on the level that they operate. The credential then becomes, the credential then comes for being a peer. I like this. It just speaks to what we have been sharing. The credential may get you into the door, but it will not sustain you. There are other aspects of you as a human being that will sustain you on that assignment, in that country, on that project. So as coaches, let us not run away from credentialing. And there's a way Sai makes all of this very simple. I remember in one of our interactions, Saira, one thing that I'll never forget, when we were preparing to do those exams, and I was scared, and you told me, Aileen, the exams are not here to fail you. They're just helping you establish where else you need to start paying more attention. And I got that and definitely ran with it. And indeed, my credential came. So thank you so much, dear audience. Carol, are you able to read for me some of the chats in the box, please?
Yes, Aileen.
Thank you so much.
So, just a second. Africa Center for Entrepreneurship is asking, can pro bono play a deep role for coaches to reach out for those who want coaching, but funds are short? How can we help as a coach? This was the question you referenced at SAI, and I am in that category. I have signed on the wait list, hoping there will be a way by the time the cohort is starting. Thank you. That's the cohort that's starting in July by coach.
In July, okay.
Yes.
Okay, welcome. What I like about this Coach for Excellence Africa partnership that we have is we engage with the clients. Once you express interest in, joining to become a coach, we shall have a conversation, and we always work out something. So I'm glad that you have registered on the waiting list, and I cannot wait to have a conversation with you. Any other comments?
Yes, I don't think you'd read the one from Rosemary. She says she believes that experience, especially in the West, counts more than qualifications, certifications, because it comes down to the results a coach consultant delivers. But on the African continent, I suppose the credentials count. That's just a comment from her.
Thank you, Rosemary. And you are right in many ways. And I've been seeing this, looking at how far the industry has come on the continent. And where we are at now is we're moving into that space of beyond. Your credentials can bring you here, but they can't sustain you, just like I shared. Yeah. So after the credentials, then what? I think we now suddenly have so many, clients or institutions requesting for coaching services, and they're watching us. They're looking at our work. They're looking at our credibility. They're looking at so many things. So yes, let's get the credibility, the accreditations or the certifications, but also let us bring the best of us into the work that we do. Okay, so we have
maybe the other, I don't know if you read Lego's comment. She says she would also love to expand her horizons, collaborate and serve. And she's already in the coaching space in South Africa. So we need to take note of that as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Kalego. I see Nankhonde has also made a response. I'll read it quickly. But in response to what the data says, yes, about the question of whether women do make better coaches than men. She's saying that in response to that, it is interesting to note that in supporting a growth mindset, the data indicates that women are more inclined to reflect more traits as nurturers and connectors, but at the same time, it creates a double-blind something that leadership requires both accommodation and accountability. So a balanced coach supports a leader who can demonstrate competencies from both without losing their own identity. I love that. So this is what the data shows. And Hajat, I know by now you know that no matter where you are, whether you're male or female, bring your identity into the room. And I guess that is the place where transformation will happen, will come from. So, Carol, I don't know how much time we are remaining with, but I'd like to quickly run what we call a lightning round with all our speakers today. We just have 1.5 minutes each. And the reflection question for us is, what is that one thing, looking at everything we have shared since the blog started, that you feel African coaches or coaching firms or professional bodies should build together more deliberately? I'll quickly start with Sai, move to Ranjit, Caroline, and then Nankhonde. Thank you so much.
Right. So would you repeat that question one more time for me?
So the question is, what is that one thing that you feel African coaches or coaching institutions or even professional bodies should build together more deliberately?
This is a very interesting question. I think my answer is, I think we should look at the African culture, right? The principal value of African culture that we could leverage in creating a guild of coaches in Africa, which creates a platform for aspiring coaches, practicing coaches to come together and share. And in the process, they become, the better version of themselves, right? And that could be standards which Africa could be setting, because this continent has got such a huge culture, so many countries within such a huge culture.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. And Ranjit?
Yeah, thank you, Aileen. From my perspective, very quickly, in interest of time, one, coaching at the core is a very human process, right? It's a human engagement. It's a human energetic exchange. And in this world of AI, as much as we'll sort of partner with it, our biggest differentiator will be more of our humanness. So I think that would be to intentionally work towards that. And just borrowing from Sai and also on Madam Caroline's thought earlier, is to build more shared learning communities, not just to deliver work, but to learn from our different contexts, learn from our different cultures, learn from our different clients. And Africa doesn't need any borrowed models or imported models. It just calls for more shared wisdom, and collaboration as a way of delivering that. So for me, thank you.
Thank you so much. That is powerful, Ranjit. Thank you for sharing. Nankhonde, would you like to go next?
Thank you. This has been such a wonderful experience and sharing. I would maybe like to contribute to the final thoughts around with a challenge. And similar to what the previous speakers have said, there is so much on this continent, but it needs to be visible. It needs to be packaged and it needs to be scaled. And I think when we start to think about who we are and what we're doing today as coaches, we have to build for tomorrow beyond your existence, beyond your legacy. And so that has been a challenge for me, and I invite others who have done it and those who are thinking about it, that some of the ways we bring in our thinking, our context, and the opportunity is putting it in a form that it can be shared more widely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That reminds me, Nankhonde, about researching, coaches writing books, coaches, engaging in research, etc., etc. Thank you so much. We'll do Carol and Toniah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Aileen. I think it was Ranjit who was speaking, and one word came to my mind. It's the whole thing of Ubuntu. We know how African that is, and that is at the center of our core. And it simply means I am because we are. So none of us can go on this journey alone. I am here because somebody had a vision, came, and put it together and collected people. And in that collection, I am also here. So I believe that should be at the center of it, because it's about the humanity. We should emphasize that humanity, that compassion, that interconnectedness that we have as one, as coaches, as one, so that we come forward and practice Ubuntu and just be there for one another and lift each other up and our respective organizations. Thank you.
Beautifully stated. Ubuntu, Ubuntu, Ubuntu. I'll see you just the way you are. I see you completely. Thank you so much, Carol, for that. And Toniah?
I think for me,
yes.
Yeah, thank you, Aileen. For me, is consistency in quality. Just sharpening that X and now and again, but remaining consistent in what we are doing, not when we feel like it. Because when we align ourselves with clear and credible frameworks like the ICF, then we are recognized worldwide and through this journey. So consistency in the quality that we bring as Africans in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So consistency in the industry. Let us do whatever it is that we are doing, but be deliberate and consistent in it. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We have grown a big tree today. It's got roots, it's got branches, it's got a big trunk, and of course, some fruits. Every voice on this panel has helped grow this tree today. And my question to you now is, what collaboration will you pursue or strengthen in the next 90 days? Yeah, I don't know where that collaboration is or how you're going to do it, but what can you commit to, for the next 90 days? And with that said, what we must build together, what must we build together that none of us cannot build alone. That is the reflective question I'm leaving you with. Thank you so much for attending this call today. As we move into our third segment, I just want to say thank you to Nankhonde, Caroline, Toniah, Ranjit, Saira, for coming in, for sharing your experience with us, and for the members on the call. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for engaging. We look forward, for those of us who are interested in, growing our coaching skills, we'll be more than happy to have you on board come July. Thank you once again, and over to you, Danny. Thank you, Ranjit.
Powerful session, everyone. Welcome. If you are tuning in for block number 3, good news, you're in the right place. Having said that, we'll start in 3 minutes because some of us, this was a really powerful block. Maybe some of you want to have a quick refreshment, right? Like get a drink, stretch your legs, dance, right? That we're about to showcase. And the block 3 is all about building a business out of your expertise. It is how do we actually turn everything that we have learned, both in coaching skills, into something that we can package and we can monetize on the African continent and beyond. And our next speaker after the mini break of 3 minutes is no other than Flora Mutai, who is one of Kenya's most accomplished entrepreneurs. So you will definitely want to catch this very important session. Flora and I will be having a fireside chat. This is going to be powerful. I've known her now for many years, so this is going to be very, very good. And we also have a special contribution by BCA Leadership CEO, Dr. Madupe Taylor-Pierce, who has become a good friend, and I'm beyond excited to show that recorded session, which is about 7 minutes block. So that's it for after the 3 minutes break. We'll wrap up within the hour. Block 3 will be about an hour. So make sure that you plan the rest of your afternoon, like cancel some meetings, right? Like send some messages in these 3 minutes that you now have. You want to make sure that you're here for the grand finale of our 20-year anniversary. A special thank you for block 2 speakers. This was absolutely amazing. So can you blow up the chat for block 2 speakers? And Aileen for doing a wonderful job in terms of moderation. This was spectacular. So thank you so much. And I'll be sharing the song that we have been playing at the start, our special 20-year anniversary anthem. So enjoy the music, get quickly some refreshments, call some people that you will not make it to that meeting, and stay on for the grand finale. All right.
Beside the ones who lead. We did not come to teach. We came to listen, to walk, to build. This is the work we know. The steady, the daily, the slow. Coach Africa. Coach Africa. The present, the future to come. From Kampala to Cape Town, from Lagos to Nairobi, a continent of leaders, a continent continent of stories. We are not here to save, we are here to nurture what was always there. This is the work we know. The steady, the daily, the steady, the daily, the slow. Oh, Coach Africa, Coach Africa, where excellence is the past, the present, the future to come. The next 20 are already starting. In every conversation, in every question asked, in every leader who chooses to grow. This is how Africa rises and how it lasts. This is the work we know. The steady, steady, the daily, the steady, the daily, the slow. Coach Africa, Coach Africa, where excellence is the past, the present, the future to come.